Now everybody, let me tell you a story about Hollywood shame, where terrible actors and scripts collide. Oh, what a mess it is on the other side. Saw the lights, camera, action begin, but all I got was a movie that plunged in a spin. From the first scene to the credits that roll, a Hollywood disaster, you've taken its toll. Silver Screen Cesspool, bad movies galore. Can't help but wonder what the hell were they making these for? Throw in some cliches, the sharp, the predictable plot. It's a train wreck, I tell you, it's all they ever got.
And now for our feature presentation.
Welcome to the Silver Screen Cesspool, where we review the pool. And now your host, the surveyor of cinema, the mocker of moronic movies, the terror of tiny town, the last known survivor of battlefield Earth, the one of many, Alan Smithee.
The Crawling Hand from 1963 sounds like it could be a spin-off from the Addams Family starring Thing. It's not. What it is, though, in a word, is terrible. In 2 words, very terrible. In 3 words, very, very terrible. But just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful space trip that stars Alan Hale Jr., better known as the Skipper. Our story is set during the quest to land a man on the moon. Only the space agency isn't having much luck with getting astronauts back from the moon. They keep dying, and the latest venture isn't any more successful. The current guy is begging them, for unknown reasons, to blow up his spacecraft before he lands. Also, he was out of oxygen for 20 minutes and should have been dead, so that's kind of weird. The head science guys think the reason for this is life is different in space. It evolves differently, or some almost science-y sounding crap like that. Meanwhile, at the local soda shop, dancing has broken out, and the soda jerk is being a jerk about it because he grew up in Footloose. Also, our movie star Marta gets introduced, and she's carrying a rat, which is for her grandfather, a scientist. I think she wants him to catch the plague or something like that. Her boyfriend Paul picks her up and takes her and the rat home so she can get her bathing suit and go for a swim at the beach. The rat doesn't have a bathing suit, so he can't go swimming and gets handed off to Grandpa Scientist. They change at the beach, and we don't get to see them naked due to some careful camera work. And due to some not-so-careful camera work, we can also tell that she's not naked, but putting on her bikini bottom over another bikini. They frolic on the beach, and when he talks about marriage, she tries to run away, so he flings her around before tackling her. It's supposed to be romantic, I think? But she falls face down looking at a dismembered and not yet crawling hand, or at least it appears to be one, inside an astronaut flight suit, glove, and sleeve. She's understandably upset and wants to leave the beach. Her boyfriend wants to take the severed hand home with him, and believe it or not, she is not on board with that idea. So he goes back in the middle of the night for it. Seems like an idea that'll end well for everyone. He wraps it up in a plastic bag and takes it home in his aunt's house's pantry. Our science guys, meanwhile, have decided that the rats they sent into space are as smart as humans because, checks notes, one unlocked a cage that one time. During the night, the hand gets hungry and decides to get something to eat, which wakes up Paul's aunt. She finds a mess, cleans it up, and then tries to go back to bed. But before she can, the hand, now somehow gloveless, leaps at her throat. Lunges at her throat, hurls itself at her throat. Flies? moves to her throat using propulsion of unknown origin. Look, I don't know how it wound up flying through the air at her throat and choking her to death, but I do find that movement much more believable than it being able to take a glove off itself with one hand. Paul, hearing the commotion, runs into the aunt's bedroom and finds her dead. Finding a scrap of sleeve, he runs into the pantry before even checking for a pulse, and he finds our crawling hand has, well, crawled away. It's gone. So he calls the sheriff. The sheriff investigates for a bit, leaves Paul to catch up on sleep, and then Paul also gets attacked by the crawling hand until he loses consciousness. Then the coroner shows up to pick up the body of the dead aunt, who has just been casually laying in her bedroom unattended, not even a sheet over her. The coroner and his assistant stumble upon the unconscious Paul and are freaked out by the not dead body. Paul awakens in the back of the hearse next to the actual dead body, and he understandably loses his shit. At least it's supposed to be a dead body. She blinks an awful lot for a dead woman. When Paul eventually wanders home, the sheriff, is there waiting for him. He tells him not to leave home. The fingerprints from our crawling hand have been traced back to the space agency, and this could cause some issues if one of their dead astronauts is fingered in a crime. So they start their investigation, and Sheriff Skipper's kind of pissed about losing the case, but he knuckles down and lends a hand by sending a deputy to keep the house safe. Something strange is happening to Paul, though. He's wearing eye makeup and has entered his goth phase. Or possibly he's turning into a hand-possessed zombie. He leaves the house and attacks the jerky soda jerk and tries to strangle him to the upbeat tune, "The Bird is the Word," and not even the version you're familiar with by the Trashmen. I get the character isn't going to stop strangling anyone just to put another dime in the jukebox, baby, but the writer could have scripted a different one playing. Paul flees the scene and heads over to his girlfriend's house to wave goodbye before he flees town to prove his innocence. To further prove his innocence, he also tries to choke Marta unconscious. Luckily, Skipper Sheriff, along with the feds, are already en route, so they're able to almost assist. He addresses Marta's father as the professor, and I fully expected him to start building things out of coconuts to defeat the crawling hand. But alas, I was disappointed. Paul goes back home to get something out of the bottom of the closet, and the creeping hand falls out of the top shelf, attacking him. They arm wrestle for a bit, but then Paul wraps the hand up in a towel using his extra hand advantage. He throws it in the trunk and heads off for the town dump. As they arrive, however, the hand has escaped and tries to choke the chicken named Paul. Paul and Righty battle it out, Paul stabbing it with a broken beer bottle repeatedly. Skipper and the feds show up at the dump, and Paul is still armed with the broken bottle. Skipper warns Paul to drop it, threatening to shoot with his boomstick. Stray cats wind up eating the rogue hand, which finally defeats it, freeing Paul from the spell. The movie The Crawling Hand is terrible, and as it ends, we do not need to give it a hand when a single finger will do. The Crawling Hand is available streaming on Tubi.
Silver Screen Cesspool is written, directed, and starring Alan Smithee. Assistant director, producer, and stunt coordinator, Alan Smithee. Boom mic operator, sound editing, and music by Alan Smithee. Construction coordinator, The Amazing Rando. Makeup by Crayola. Catering was provided by the Soylent Corporation. Alan Smithee will be back in Return of the Curse of the Planet of the Prehistoric Bikini Ninjas versus Kingdom of the Bride of the Killer, Shark Cheerleaders 2, Electric Boogaloo.